Some say wisdom is a river, and others say it is a mountain, but there was once a riddle whispered in the courtyard of a quiet monastery. Can a man carry all knowledge at once, or must he drink it in cups? The question lodged in the heart of the young scholar, and curiosity drew him toward the stacks of scrolls, and a choice awaited him. He was called Amir, a man with eyes that held both hunger and tenderness, known for staying long after lamps were doused, and for speaking to dust as if it were a teacher. He believed learning could be gathered like coin, and he measured worth by the weight of scrolls at his feet. So he promised himself he would take all the wisdom he could find, beginning at dawn and ending only when the moon burned low. On the first night he read until the lamp hissed and the air grew thick with words, taking in histories, recipes for the stars, poems and laws, as if hoarding each sentence would make him rich beyond measure. When dawn came, his hands trembled from ink and his mind felt full in a way that made it hard to reach. And yet he swore this abundance was the path to certainty, so he stacked more scrolls and prepared to devour them as one devours a feast. Neighbors marveled at his diligence, and the head of the monastery praised his zeal. Yet in private, an old scribe watched quietly and noticed that names and dates blurred in Amir's mouth like coins that had been polished too quickly. It is told that the scribe leaned toward the young man with a gentle, secret smile, and that the smile carried a lesson waiting to be learned, but Amir could not yet see what lay beneath. As pages multiplied beneath his hands, a subtle vanity grew. Amir began to measure himself against others, counting the scrolls he had mastered as trophies and letting the desire for larger piles shadow the simple love that had started his journey. Yet in the silence between pages, he felt a small hollow he could not name, and the hollow widened like an echo before a test arrived. In the season of the Festival of Names, the monastery held a test of memory. Each student would recite passages from memory and show what they had learned, and the prize was not gold, but a place to teach younger seekers. Amir prepared with feverish nights, folding sleep into the margins of his notes and repeating lines until his voice cracked, believing sheer volume would carry him through, and the festival dawned like a tide bearing his ambition to shore. When Amir stood to speak, his voice first shone with confidence, but as he moved from one great passage to another, the first lines slid away, and then the others. The more he had tried to hoard, the less each piece would stay. Faces in the crowd changed from admiration to concern, and Amir felt the shame of someone who had staked his worth on a pile that would not hold together under scrutiny. That night, he returned to his chamber with the taste of ash, carrying unspoken regret and a pile of unread scrolls that suddenly looked like tokens of his own folly rather than trophies. Alone, he tried to stitch meaning back together by reading until his eyes blurred, and in the wavering light the old scribe's quiet smile came to him, like a question he had not yet answered. The scribe came at dawn bearing a small clay cup and the calm of someone who had seen many storms of desire, and he spoke not of criticism, but of an old practice. We teach the body to eat in portions so it can digest. Why would learning be any different? The question landed like a cool breeze and pulled at something frayed inside Amir. But old habits are like roots, stubborn beneath the soil. Amir listened as if the scribe's words were a map, and for the first time he saw study not as a banquet to be consumed at once, but as a long meal to be taken in measured bites so each flavor might settle and root. The idea felt both humbling and strangely hopeful, and he decided to test it, though somewhere in the monastery a whisper of expectation lingered that would soon press upon him. Amir began with a single scroll a day, reading slowly until each sentence felt like planted seed, then setting it aside to return the next day to see what had taken root. At first his friends laughed and the monastery murmured that his pace was too timid for one with such hunger, yet in the quiet of his small victories he began to recall details with a clarity that had once eluded him, and that clarity felt like treasure. Old friends urged him back into the frantic chase, praising those who could recite entire tomes with fevered pride, and moneylenders of reputation. Those who judged by numbers and speed made him feel small for his patience. Yet every time he resisted and sat with a single scroll until its edges became familiar, a gentle confidence replaced the anxious hunger, and memory hardened like cured wood. One afternoon, the scribe led Amir to the monastery garden and pointed to rows of herbs. "If you tear up the whole bed to eat at once, nothing remains to nourish you tomorrow," he said, and Amir watched how small, steady tending invited a harvest across seasons rather than a single emptying feast. It was an image that folded neatly into his practice study, not as a conquest, but as cultivation, and the days took on a rhythm that soothed the old ache of wanting everything now. Word spread that Amir remembered with uncommon steadiness, not because he had the most scrolls, but because he had let each scroll befriend him slowly, and students who had once mocked him came to ask for the method. It is told that a small circle gathered beneath the arches, and that the practice of portions began to move like water through the monastery, changing habits without fanfare and quietly shifting the measure of success. When the master of the monastery announced a difficult debate, many expected Amir to falter and to prove that portions were a timid strategy, but Amir had trained his memory like a garden and prepared not by a single fierce night but by patient seasons. He stood and spoke with measured certainty, and the crowd felt the depth that steady tending can yield. Pride swelled in his chest, but with it came a new humility, because he now understood that growth is careful and patient rather than loud. Years passed, and Amir taught the youngest seekers the simple rule: take little, return often, let each lesson settle, and never measure success only by how much you have amassed at once. Children who had once been distracted by spectacle learned endurance, and their faces opened like windows when a truth took root. The monastery's light felt steadier, and the old scribe watched with a smile that knew the slow shape of change. The scribe once said that there is another kind of wealth, one that grows when tended and perishes when hoarded, and Amir learned to see knowledge and coin through the same lens. Moderation breeds endurance. In quiet counsel, he taught a few trusted men to save small portions of their harvest, to plant rather than to plunder, and their lives, once precarious, found a steadier hold on the seasons. It is told that the monastery's practice of portions left its walls, and that traveling merchants and distant teachers carried the story as a quiet counsel against excess, turning the old parable of hunger and measure into a living habit in villages that had once celebrated only abundance. Where greed had once urged haste, the new rhythm asked for patience, and lives settled into a steadier song that carried them through lean winters and fat summers alike. Amir, older now, returned once to the courtyard where the riddle first took root, and he touched the worn stones with a hand that had learned to wait, remembering nights of fevered hunger and the gentle cup that taught him measure. He felt both gratitude and a steady sorrow for the moments he had lost to speed, and in that mixed feeling he found a final clarity, knowing that wisdom is less about possession and more about stewardship, a truth that changes how one tends life and riches alike. And so the parable ends. Amir taught that to study in portions is to honor time, memory, and life itself, and that greed for knowledge or gold will hollow the hand that grasps without measure. Measured practice yields depth that endures beyond show. Carry this. Steady portions compound like seeds into harvest, and the wisdom of moderation is both a moral and a practical map for how to keep what you build, now and for those who follow,